I'm Rick Lewis with Phenom Hoop Report. In today's segment of Phenom Focus, I have head coach Cardis Brown of New Light Disciples. Welcome, Coach.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Coach, tell us a little bit about the New Light Disciples, when it got started, and your goal behind it.
We started the program 16 years ago with the mindset of giving these kids an opportunity to have a platform to showcase their talent. It's the idea that a lot of these kids have the mindset that you have to be on the circuit with all the shoe brands and all that type of thing. So what I wanted to do was give them the opportunity of playing in all the top-notch tournaments and giving them that opportunity that they were not getting, wherever they were before they came to us. So 16 years ago, it was my baby that, we birthed. And over the years, we have grown and expanded and became one of the premier teams around the area.
Well, I would say, what you've done with New Light Disciples, you've taken them as far as being one of the elite teams in the state as far as a non-shoe company team.
Right.
Y'all have had a tremendous success record. You played in some of the better tournaments. I think you told me earlier that you went up to the Adidas Gauntlet,
yes,
won
sir.
that tournament up there.
Yes, sir.
You won other tournaments as well. You participated in a lot of our events as well.
Yes,
in
sir.
each and every event, you've been one of the most competitive teams, and you won the majority of the games and even won some of the tournaments.
Yep.
For a grassroots organization team like yourself, what's the biggest thing that you're looking for and what you want to achieve with this particular team?
Well, what I want the kids that are hungry. A lot of kids want things given to them now.
Right.
And so they have to take on my personality. I went to Oak Ridge Military Academy, which kind of instilled in me hard work.
Right.
So most of the kids that come to me, number one, if the grades are not at a 3.0, they're not going to play for me. Every kid on our team has a 3.0 GPA, and that sets us apart from all the other AAU programs where it's just based on basketball. We're trying to build character for these kids later on, because the fact of the matter is every kid wants to play in the NBA.
Right.
But only a few of them will get that opportunity to play in the NBA. So what are you going to do next?
Right.
What type of man are you going to be? And so when it comes down for me, I don't want kids who want me to give them stuff.
Right.
I want kids that's going to come to work. We're different than most AAU teams where we practice 2 days out the week. Most teams, they're going to get together that Friday,
right,
and they're going to roll the ball out and play. We go beyond that. We do SAT prep. We do a basketball 101 class before practice where we dissect game films and we talk about the different terminologies. So when they get to a college, I know that I'm giving a product to this college where they don't have to do so much work. That kid is coming in ready, understands the game inside and out, not just putting the ball through the hoop. What can you do when you're sitting on the bench and the coach is asking you to dissect what's happening on the floor? And that's what we're trying to get at.
But one thing you mentioned earlier, you wanted kids who are hungry.
Hungry.
And the most important thing is the personality of the team takes on your personality.
Yes, sir.
And
Absolutely.
You're very passionate.
Very passionate.
And you play to win, you coach to win. And you get your kids to play hard.
Yes.
In today's society, a lot of these kids, they don't always play hard.
Don't play hard.
That's not true for your team.
And it starts in practice. We have a thing called 17s. Anytime in practice, I blow the whistle, we're going to do a 17. So I set the tone from the get-go. Everything we do is structured to a T of time. When we come in practice, they have a schedule, they know what we're doing. It's not like we're just going through the motions and we don't have no objective. Every drill that we do, it translates into our plays that we actually run. It translates into our defense, because I don't want them to think that you just do a drill just to do it. We're doing a drill, we'll do a pick drill because a lot of the plays we run carry on with the pick. And so that way they have a better understanding why we're doing this, what's the reason for it, how to hedge a screen. And so that's what we're big on. We're trying to get the kids. For instance, we have a kid that you're going to talk about, Quail Manning, who was on another team just sitting the bench. I want a kid like that that's sitting there, that's hungry,
right,
that nobody has taken the time out to work with them. So then when we can actually put our stamp on them and work with them, they appreciate that 10 times more. Versus then a kid who already has 10, 15 offers, and then they're second guessing what you're saying because they have that big head. I want the kids, every kid that plays for us this year started out this season with no offers.
Right.
And as the season has went along, like I told the parents at the beginning of the season, if you buy into what I'm saying, we will have at least 7 to 8 players that are getting looked at or getting offers.
The one thing you guys do, you coach with a chip on your shoulder,
Yes.
but your players play with that chip on their shoulder.
Absolutely.
And the one thing I've noticed each and every game is those kids play hard on both ends of the court.
Yes, sir.
They don't take any plays off. So, especially for college coaches, when they watch your team play, they know one thing. They don't have to work and say, hey, I got to teach that kid effort, because you're not going to tolerate a kid that doesn't play 100%.
Not going to happen. And the thing is, most of the parents, when we started out this year, they said, well, Coach, you got 14 kids on the team. How is every kid going to get minutes? Well, that's how you separate it. If you're not playing hard, then your minutes taken away, and you know that there's somebody, if they come in, they have the opportunity of taking your position, because we're so deep. We have kids at every position that could start on most other teams in the city. But the thing is, they love to compete. They love in practice. It is so chippy because they're fighting for that playing time. And that's what I tell the parents. This is not the YMCA. I can't guarantee your kid any minutes. But what I can tell you, if they come to work every day, bring their hard hat, then they'll get on the floor. And so that's when they start buying into it. Of course, we had, first couple of weeks where it was hard. Because a lot of these kids at their high school team, they're the top player.
Right.
So it's almost like coaching the USA team, where you have LeBron, you have Kobe, you have all these top players. They have to buy into the fact that we all got to share the ball. Only one person can have the ball. And so when they do that, they beat teams by 50 points. And that's the same thing that we try to do. When they all understand that we all going to eat, we all going to go out here and show up, then it makes it that much funner.
Well, here's the thing that's impressive. Looking at your roster, okay, you're a grassroots organization team. You call New Light Disciples.
Yes, sir.
All your kids are local. Now, I'm looking through this roster, and you got a roster full of kids that are going to play at the Division I or Division II level.
Yes.
Now, that doesn't usually happen on a small grassroots team such as yourself.
Yeah.
So let's start off with it. We're looking at 6'10" Quay Mating.
Quail Manning, Quail is a kid, like I said. He was on a team, sitting the bench, never got the opportunity to play, and God always is in the midst of everything. And so happened we were at a tournament, and I met his mom in the hallway. And I said, if you give me the opportunity to work with him, I will get him an offer. And sure enough, that week, she took him off the team he was on, brought him to me. And the next week, we happened to go to Spartanburg, and he picked up his first offer.
And that was at our Phenom Challenge.
That was at the Phenom Challenge. He picked up Western Carolina.
And you know what? Since then, he's picked up an offer from UNC Greensboro,
Yes.
Radford, and he picked up the Western Carolina offer
Yes.
at the Phenom Challenge.
Yes.
Here's a young man who was not getting any playing time. You brought him in. He bought into it. You worked him, challenged him, and he has 3 offers. And in my opinion, Coach, at 6'10", he's one of the most versatile players in the state. And as a matter of fact, when we redo our rankings, you're going to see a tremendous jump in his recruitment and his rankings with us, because we feel like his upside is just crazy, crazy good.
I tell kids all the time, Quail is a kid that I see NBA potential in. And the thing is, he's hungry. He's been one of those kids that he's been looked over so much, so now he's a gym rat. It's almost like I have to beg him to leave the gym now, because this is a kid that went from sitting to not even really getting out to warm up with the team, to now he has college coaches blowing my phone up, blowing his phone up. It got to the point where a couple weeks ago he was like, Coach, I need to change my number. This is getting out of hand. I didn't know how many coaches were going to call me. And so I told him, Quill, I'll handle that end of it. We'll work together and we'll go what best fits you. And it's just like you said, the sky's the limit for that kid. UNCG is the most recent team that has offered him. But again, Quail's potential is a high major D1 kid. And a lot of times we hold back a lot of the stuff he can do. He can stretch out, shoot the 3. He can bring the ball up the floor. And he defends well at his size against smaller guards. So with all that and the upside, and also having the family trait, Luau Ding is one of his cousins. It's in him. And the whole thing was he just needed the opportunity. You can't give a kid an opportunity if they just sitting, for the whole game. So that's what we did.
But that's the platform you're giving.
Absolutely.
You're wanting those kids that's sitting somewhere else, not getting a playing time. You're getting that kid that's being overlooked. That's the platform you provide. Now, another young man that, to me, he's just a walking double-double. I think he's the best rebounding player in the state. I think he's a generous 6'8", but Tyler Young is by far the best rebounder in the state of North Carolina. Would you agree?
Hands of glue. Hands of glue. This kid, if it's anywhere near him, those big mitts wrap around it and the ball's not going anywhere. And the thing is, this is a kid, again, 2 years ago, we tried to get him, but he was playing on one of the circuit teams, and he wasn't getting the feedback that he wanted. So, you know, I kind of backed off of him, and finally this year he came in the gym and he said, Coach, this has been the best decision I made. And it's like you said, he is a dog on the block. He's going to get every rebound that comes off the rim, and he finishes around the rim. And he's one of the old school back to the basket post players.
I was going to mention, he's one of these guys that's a traditional post player. But the thing is, you mentioned he has great hands.
Great hands.
But he also has good footwork. He's very crafty and nifty. He likes to go underneath the rim, use the rim as protection. He's not an above the rim guy, but I tell you one thing, you're not going to find anybody that rebounds any better than Tyler Young.
No.
And he picked up an offer from UVA Wise. I think you said you had Radford showing interest, and he also has an offer from Northwest Missouri State.
Yes, sir.
And I think there's some other schools that's reached out to you as well on Tyler.
It's been a lot of schools to reach out, and it's only going to pick up even more now. He just committed to go to Fort Union this year for school, which is going to be awesome. It's going to change his body tremendously, and the offers are continue to roll in. His main thing is now getting his body conditioned where he can go the full game. And like you said, he plays below the rim, but he makes up for it with his rebounding and his body type. He's a bully.
He has great anticipation, and that's just like an instinct. He has that instinct where that ball's coming off.
Yep.
He knows where the ball's coming off. He's going to get those rebounds on the offensive and defensive end. Let's move on to Isaiah Ray. He's a 6'5" combo guard, and I think you said he just started getting the interest from the Citadel. Talk about Isaiah Ray.
Isaiah Ray is a crafty guard. He's a combo guard. A lot of times I'll run him at the point guard as well as, you know, off ball. But he is long. He's very rangy. He can knock down a three. He's a dog on the defensive side of the floor. And like I said, he's starting to pick up a lot of offers too, a lot of interest from different schools. The Citadel is the most recent school that has been interested in him. But now, of course, they're trying to check his character. They're going to do the background check, which, you know.
They're a military school.
They're a military school. He's another kid that may possibly end up going to Fort Union. Right now, it has him at High Point Christian. But just this past week, Fort Union reached out, and they're interested in getting him. So we actually have a visit there coming up.
And then 6'5" Trent McIntyre, he was at our event just recently at the Summer Havoc. University of Virginia Wise was there. They saw him, and they offered him. So let's talk a little bit about Trent.
Trent McIntyre, I mean, we'll be here all day talking about him. He does all the intangibles. He's one of our leaders on the floor at all times. Him and Jamari Thomas are probably two of the best combo guards that you know I've had in many years. He can knock down the three. He plays all three levels. He can knock down a 15-foot, knock down a three, but he's very crafty at reading the defense, picking them apart with no-look passes. You know, starting to pick up late interest. He was the MVP in the state championship game for Piedmont Classic School this past year. So now his recruiting is starting to pick up. The sky's the limit for him. I see him as a mid-major D1 player, most definitely.
Yeah, and the last player we're going to talk about is Jamari Thomas. And a lot of people really don't know much about Jamari Thomas because he's coming off a pretty bad D injury.
Yeah.
And but for the people who get a chance to watch Jamari Thomas play, the best word I can say is he's just a dog on the court.
Dog. He's a dog. He's a coach on the floor. He's a kid that stays under coach's wing 24/7, which I tell him that's how you have to be as a point guard. You're an extension of me on the floor. And like you said, he's coming off a torn ACL, but off a torn ACL, he was supposed to be out a year. Came back in 5 months. Doctors were impressed. They couldn't believe how fast he recovered. And they just checked his vertical. He has a 39-inch vertical. In my opinion, by far, he's the top point guard in the class of 2021.
Well, I tell you what, Coach, 16 years ago, you started New Life Disciples. And today, you've taken it to a new level. You've taken, and I think your goal was to take a lot of these young men originally were just wanting to play football just to try to get them looks to play basketball and get some looks there. But what you've now done is taken a local grassroots team, elevated them onto a state level. as one of the premier teams in the state. And I'm sure there's a lot of the shoe company teams, you know, they say, New Light Disciples. That's a team that a lot of people don't want to play, because one thing about it is, Coach, I've watched you play, your teams play. They're going to fight, they're going to crawl on the floor, they're going to do everything they can do to get a win. And I think, you know, you put that into them because you're the leader of the team, and all these guys buy in. And a lot of these guys understand that, hey, you know, I was that guy that was under-recruited. I didn't get any looks. Now they bought in, and now all these guys are getting scholarship offers and interest from college coaches. And as a coach, that has to be the most rewarding thing.
It's the most rewarding thing, and that's what I told them years ago. Most of the boys have been playing with me since 7th, 8th grade. And we set out in 7th, 8th grade. I said, listen, y'all were the overlooked ones. And so I tell them this before every game. And that's why when they come on the floor, they have this chip and an attitude, because they feel a lot of times, well, why not us?
Right.
And that's our motto we use all the time. Why not us? Why are we the ones that get overlooked? So when we get the opportunity to play against these top-notch teams, we go after them, because we know that they have the schools that's coming to see them. We want to take their offers when we can. And since they have bought into that, it makes the job a lot easier, and it's very rewarding. Over the 16 years, we have kids overseas. I have a kid in London right now, one of the top players, Will O'Harabe. But not only that, we have doctors and lawyers, and that's what I look at. I want these kids to have an opportunity to do something besides sitting right here in Greensboro and end up succumbing to the streets, because right now it's terrible. It's a terrible time. So that's what we want to do. We want to help.
Well, one thing for sure, Coach, New Light Disciples is no longer overlooked by us, because
well, we appreciate it.
Because one thing is, you're a fun team to watch. We like how they compete each and every game, and you know what? You don't have to teach effort with these young men, because they're going to come out here and compete. And today at the Phenom Summer Finale, we have 20-plus coaches at the D2, D3 level. They're going to get a treat watching your team play today.
Well, we love putting on a show for everybody, and it's like I told you a couple years ago, we want to play all the top teams.
Right.
We don't run from nobody. We want to play all the teams that call us out, because at the end of the day, I want to see kids compete. I want kids to be able to compete at the highest level and be able to showcase their talent.
Right.
Whether it's win, loss, it doesn't matter to me. At the end of the day, it's not about the win and loss. It's about getting these kids to the next level.
Okay. Well, thank you, Coach. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Take care.
Guys got it? So hard work on 3, sprint to the next spot. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Hard work. Sprint to the next spot. Don't walk. Get there, get there, get there, get there.